The blind millionaire lives in a mansion echoing with memories of a lost love, until a mysterious woman arrives, bringing more questions than answers. When a new housemaid is hired, her daughter makes a revelation that triggers a wave of long-buried memories and fears. If this story caught your attention, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us which city you're watching from. Stay tuned. The morning light filtered through the curtains of the master bedroom, casting long shadows across the hardwood floor. Nathan Rosen sat on the edge of his king-sized bed, his unseeing eyes fixed on what he imagined was the window. It had been 8 months since the accident that had claimed his sight and Emily's life. 8 months of darkness, both literal and figurative. Mr. Rosen? A soft knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Breakfast is ready, and Lara is asking for you. Thank you, Mrs. Simmons. I'll be right down. His voice was hoarse from lack of use. The elderly housekeeper had been a godsend during these past months, but she had announced her retirement last week. At 72, she deserved her rest, but her departure left Nathan with a void that seemed impossible to fill. Nathan reached for his cane and carefully made his way down the hallway he had memorized, step by step. His fingers trailed along the wall, counting the doorways. 3 doors down was Lara's room. His 6-year-old daughter was the only light left in his world. "Daddy!" Lara's excited voice greeted him as he entered the dining room. Small footsteps pattered across the floor before tiny arms wrapped around his legs. "You slept forever." Nathan smiled, the first genuine smile of the day. "Did I now? Well, I'm sorry for keeping Princess Lara waiting." He bent down, allowing his daughter to guide his hand to her face. It was their morning ritual, his way of seeing her. "We have interviews today," Mrs. Simmons reminded him as she placed a cup of coffee in his hand. "I've scheduled 3 candidates for the housekeeping position. The first one arrives at 10. Nathan nodded, trying to quell the anxiety that rose in his chest. Change was difficult now, more so than ever before. The mansion that had once been a symbol of his success now felt like a prison of memories. Every corner held whispers of Emily, her laugh, her perfume, the soft sound of her footsteps. "I don't want a new nanny," Lara declared, her voice taking on that stubborn tone that reminded Nathan so much of Emily. "I want you to stay, Mrs. Simmons." "Oh, sweetie," the older woman sighed. "It's not a nanny we're looking for, just someone to help around the house. And you know my old bones need some rest." Nathan listened to their exchange, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. How could he provide a normal life for Lara when he could barely navigate his own? His technology empire, once the focus of his existence, now ran without him, managed by capable executives who sent him reports he couldn't read. His fortune continued to grow while his world had shrunk to the confines of this mansion and the darkness of his mind. The first 2 interviews were disasters. One candidate was clearly uncomfortable with his blindness, speaking too loudly and using words like unfortunate and tragic too frequently. The second seemed more interested in the mansion's valuables than the job itself. By the time the third candidate was due to arrive, Nathan was considering cancelling altogether. "The last applicant is here, Mr. Rosen," Mrs. Simmons announced, leading someone into his study. "This is Ms. Charlotte Taylor." "Please call me Charlie," a soft voice said, and something in Nathan's chest tightened. There was a familiar cadence to her voice, a certain way she pronounced her words that tugged at his memory. "Have we met before, Miss Taylor?" Nathan asked, extending his hand in the direction of her voice. A moment of hesitation. "No, I don't believe so, Mr. Rosen." Her hand touched his, warm, soft, with slightly calloused fingertips. Working hands. "Tell me about her yourself," Nathan said, gesturing for her to sit. Charlie Taylor had grown up in Vermont, she explained. She had worked as a housekeeper for several families over the years. Her last position had been with an elderly couple in Boston, but they had moved to Florida to retire. She was 32, single, no children. "I'm good with kids," she added, as if she had anticipated his next question, "and I'm not uncomfortable around people with disabilities." Nathan appreciated that she didn't tiptoe around his blindness. "The position requires you to live in This house is large and I need someone available, especially for Lara's sake. That's not a problem, Charlie replied. I don't have many attachments. Something in her tone made Nathan pause. There was a sadness there, a loneliness that resonated with his own. Before he could delve deeper, the door burst open and Lara came bounding in. Daddy, look what I found. She stopped abruptly, presumably noticing Charlie. Oh, hello. Hello there, Charlie greeted. You must be Lara. Your dad was just telling me about you. You have pretty hair, Lara said matter-of-factly. It's the same color as my mommy's in the pictures. Nathan felt Charlie tense beside him. Lara, this is Miss Taylor. She might be helping us around the house now that Mrs. Simmons is leaving. Can I show her mommy's picture? Lara asked, already taking Charlie's hand. Come on, it's in the hallway. Before Nathan could intervene, Lara had dragged Charlie out of the room. He heard their footsteps retreating down the hallway, followed by Lara's animated chatter. A moment later there was a sudden silence. Then Lara's voice, high and startled. Mommy, you came back! Nathan's heart lurched. He grabbed his cane and hastily made his way out of the study, following the sound of Lara's voice. When he reached them, he sensed an odd tension in the air. Is everything all right? He asked, reaching out instinctively. Yes, Charlie replied too quickly. Lara was just showing me your wife's portrait. She was beautiful. Yes, she was, Nathan agreed, his voice thick. Emily was extraordinary. At the mention of Emily's name, Charlie made a small sound, almost like a gasp. Nathan's senses, heightened by his blindness, picked up on her rapid breathing, the subtle shift in her stance. Are you sure we haven't met, Miss Taylor? He asked again, unable to shake the feeling of familiarity. I'm sure, Charlie insisted, but there was something in her voice, a tremor, a hesitation that didn't match her words. Mr. Rosen, if it's all right with you, I would like to accept the position. Nathan hesitated. There was something off about Charlie Taylor, something she wasn't telling him. But Lara had already taken to her, and his options were limited. Besides, there was something about her voice that brought a strange comfort, like a familiar song half remembered. All right, Miss Taylor, the position is yours. When can you start? I can move in tomorrow, she replied. And please, call me Charlie. After Charlie left to collect her belongings, Nathan sat with Lara in the living room, listening to her excited chatter about their new housekeeper. She has a sad smile, Daddy, Lara observed. Just like you do. Nathan was struck by his daughter's perceptiveness. Does she remind you of anyone? He asked cautiously. Lara was quiet for a moment. She feels like Mommy, she finally said. Not looks like, but feels like. Is that weird? A chill ran down Nathan's spine. No, sweetheart, it's not weird at all. That night, long after Lara had gone to bed, Nathan found himself drawn to Emily's closet. He rarely entered their bedroom anymore, preferring to sleep in one of the guest rooms. But tonight, something compelled him to surround himself with her belongings. He ran his fingers over her clothes, breathing in the fading scent of her perfume. His hand brushed against a small box at the back of the closet, Emily's keepsake box. Inside were photos he could no longer see, letters he could no longer read, and memories he could only revisit in his mind. His fingers found a small velvet pouch. Inside was Emily's locket, the one she had always worn, the one containing a picture of her as a child, standing next to... Nathan froze, a sudden realization dawning on him. Emily had mentioned a sister once, early in their relationship. Twin sister she had lost touch with years ago, a sister named Charlotte. Could it be? The voice, the reaction to Emily's portrait, Lara's intuitive response, it all suddenly made a terrible, wonderful kind of sense. Nathan clutched the locket. In his fist, his heart racing. See if Charlie Taylor was indeed Emily's estranged twin sister. Why was she here? Why now? And most importantly, why hadn't she told him who she really was? Charlie Taylor stood in the modest hotel room, staring at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. The face looking back at her was identical to the one in the portrait at the Rosen mansion. Emily's face. Her face. It had been a risk coming here. A foolish, desperate risk. But when she had seen the job listing, When she had realized whose home it was, she couldn't stop herself. She splashed cold water on her face, trying to wash away the guilt that had followed her for the past 8 months. She hadn't seen her sister in over 5 years before the accident. Their relationship had been complicated, fractured by jealousy and unspoken resentments. Emily had always been the golden child, beautiful, successful, charming. She had married Nathan Rosen, one of the most eligible bachelors in America, while Charlie had drifted from job to job, relationship to relationship, never quite finding her place in the world. And then, 3 years ago, she had met Nathan at a charity gala in New York. She had attended as a server, not a guest, and he had been alone, Emily busy with some project or another. He hadn't known she was Emily's sister. She hadn't told him. It had been one conversation, then another, then secret meetings over coffee. Nothing physical had happened, but emotionally, they had crossed a line neither could uncross. When Emily found out, she had been furious. The sisters had fought viciously, and Charlie had left, vowing never to contact either of them again. She had kept that promise until the news of the accident reached her. By then it was too late for reconciliation, too late for forgiveness. And now here she was, about to move into their home, to care for the child Emily had left behind, to be near the man she had no right to care for. It was madness, but she couldn't turn back now. The next morning, Charlie arrived at the Rosen mansion with 2 suitcases containing everything she owned. Mrs. Simmons greeted her at the door, her kind face lined with both relief and sadness. "I'm so glad you're here," the older woman said, leading her inside. "I've been worried sick about leaving them. Mr. Rosen tries to be strong, but he's still struggling. And little Lara, she needs a woman's touch in her life." Charlie nodded, guilt twisting in her stomach. "I'll take good care of them," she promised, meaning it more than Mrs. Simmons could possibly understand. The elderly housekeeper spent the day showing Charlie around the sprawling mansion, explaining the routines and preferences of its inhabitants. Nathan liked his coffee black, his toast barely browned. Lara was allergic to strawberries, loved dinosaurs despite her princess appearance, and had a habit of sleepwalking when she was anxious. "And Mr. Rosen's condition?" Charlie asked carefully as they prepared lunch. "How does he manage?" Mrs. Simmons sighed. "The blindness came after the accident. The doctors say it's permanent, something about damage to the visual cortex. He's adapted remarkably well physically, but emotionally—" She shook her head. "He's still lost in the dark in more ways than one." Charlie absorbed this information silently. She had read about the accident in the news, but the articles hadn't mentioned Nathan's blindness. Another layer of tragedy she hadn't known about. "Daddy can't see with his eyes, but he sees with his heart," Lara's voice came from the doorway, startling both women. "That's what he told me." "That's very true," Charlie said softly, bending down to the child's level. "Your daddy is a very wise man." Lara studied Charlie with solemn eyes. "You look different today," she observed. "Not so much like the picture." Charlie froze, but Mrs. Simmons just chuckled. "Children and their imaginations," she said fondly. "Now, Lara, why don't you show Ms. Taylor your room while I finish lunch?" As Lara led her up the grand staircase, Charlie tried to calm her racing heart. The child was perceptive, too perceptive. She would have to be careful. Lara's room was a wonderland of pinks and purples, with a canopy bed fit for a storybook princess. But what caught Charlie's eye was the wall of photographs, dozens of them, all featuring Emily. Emily holding baby Lara, Emily and Nathan at their wedding, Emily laughing on a beach somewhere exotic. "That's my mommy," Lara said unnecessarily, watching Charlie's face. She had to go away. "I know, sweetheart," Charlie whispered, emotion threatening to overwhelm her. "I'm sorry." Lara took her hand, small fingers wrapping around Charlie's. "It's okay. She's still here sometimes. I can feel her." A chill ran down Charlie's spine. Before she could respond, a knock at the doorframe drew their attention. Nathan stood there, one hand on the door jamb, his unseeing eyes directed slightly to their left. "Everything all right in here?" he asked. "Yes, Daddy. I'm showing Charlie my room." Lara bounded over to her father, taking his hand and placing it On her head, another of their rituals, Charlie assumed. Charlie, Nathan repeated as if testing the name. Miss Taylor, I hope you're settling in well. Please, it's just Charlie, she insisted, studying his face. He was thinner than she remembered, with new lines around his eyes and mouth. His once meticulously styled hair was longer now, slightly unkempt, but he was still handsome, devastatingly so. Charlie, then, he agreed with a small smile. Mrs. Simmons speaks very highly of you. She's been with our family for years, so her endorsement means a great deal. I'll do my best not to disappoint, Charlie promised, hearing the double meaning in her own words. Daddy, can Charlie read me a story before lunch? Lara asked, already pulling a book from her shelf. Nathan hesitated, then nodded. If she doesn't mind, I have some work calls to make anyway. After he left, Charlie sat with Lara on the child's bed, the storybook open between them. As she began to read, she noticed Lara watching her intently. You sound like her when you read, the little girl said abruptly. Like Mommy. Charlie's voice faltered. I do? Lara nodded solemnly. She used to do different voices for all the characters too. She paused, her small face scrunched in thought. Were you friends with my Mommy? The question, so innocent and yet so loaded, made Charlie's heart clench. Why do you ask that, Lara? Because you look sad when you see her pictures. Like Daddy does. Children, Charlie was quickly learning, saw far more than adults gave them credit for. Your Mommy was special, she said carefully. Everyone who knew her misses her. Lara seemed satisfied with this answer, settling back against the pillows as Charlie continued reading. But the question lingered in the air between them, a harbinger of more difficult questions to come. The days fell into a routine. Charlie would wake early to prepare breakfast before Nathan and Lara came downstairs. She would help Lara dress for school, then spend the morning cleaning and organizing the mansion while Nathan worked in his home office, taking calls and listening to reports through specialized software. In the afternoons, she would pick Lara up from school, help her with homework, and prepare dinner for the three of them. It was domestic, peaceful even, but beneath the surface, tensions and unspoken truths simmered. Nathan, she discovered, was struggling more than he let on. Late at night, she would hear him moving around the house, pacing the hallways or sitting in the dark living room. Once, she had found him in Emily's closet, surrounded by her clothes, his unseeing eyes wet with tears. Charlie, he had called out, sensing her presence. I'm sorry I couldn't sleep. Don't apologize, she had told him, her voice thick with her own unshed tears. I understand. And she did understand, perhaps better than anyone else could. She understood what it was to love Emily and lose her. She understood the hollow ache that never quite subsided. What she didn't understand was the growing attraction she felt toward Nathan. It was inappropriate, unethical, and yet it was there, undeniable and intensifying with each passing day. She found herself looking forward to their quiet conversations after Lara had gone to bed, to the moments when he would laugh at something she said, the sadness momentarily lifting from his face. But there were moments when Nathan would look troubled, his brow furrowing as if trying to place something just beyond his reach. Your voice, he said one evening as they sat in the garden listening to Lara play nearby. There's something about it that reminds me of someone. Charlie's heart had nearly stopped. Oh? Who? I can't quite place it, he admitted, shaking his head. It's probably nothing. But it wasn't nothing, and they both knew it. The more time they spent together, the more the unspoken truth hung in the air between them. Charlie began to wonder if coming here had been cruel rather than kind. If her presence was preventing Nathan from truly moving on rather than helping him heal. And then there was Lara, with her unsettling perceptiveness and her cryptic comments. You know, she said to Charlie one afternoon as they baked cookies, I had a dream about Mommy last night. She was trying to tell me something. Charlie's hands stilled in the cookie dough. What did she say? She said someone was keeping a secret, Lara replied, her young face serious. She said the truth would come out soon. That night, Charlie lay awake in her room, a spacious guest suite on the opposite wing from the master bedroom, her thoughts churning. She had come here seeking absolution, seeking some way to make amends for her role in the tragedy that had befallen this family. But instead, she was deepening the deception, creating new bonds under false pretenses. She had to tell Nathan the truth. She had to confess who she really was, what she had done and why she had come. Even if it meant losing this newfound connection, even if it meant he would hate her forever, it was the right thing to do. But as dawn broke and Charlie prepared for another day in the Rosen household, she couldn't help but wonder, what if the truth didn't set them free? What if it only caused more pain? And was she really ready to face the consequences of her past actions, to look Nathan in the eye, and tell him that she was not only Emily's identical twin sister, but also the woman who had been involved with him before the accident, the catalyst for the argument that had led to Emily's departure from the house that fateful night. 3. Weeks into her employment at the Rosen mansion, Charlie found herself in a rhythm that felt dangerously comfortable. Each morning she would help Lara prepare for school, exchanging smiles with Nathan over breakfast. Each evening after Lara was tucked in bed, she and Nathan would sit in the library, sometimes talking, sometimes simply existing in a companionable silence that felt both wonderful and terrible. Tonight, Nathan sat in his customary leather armchair, a glass of bourbon in his hand while Charlie organized the bookshelf nearby. Rain pattered against the windows, creating a cozy atmosphere that belied the tension simmering beneath the surface. "Tell me about your family, Charlie," Nathan said suddenly, breaking the silence. "You've never mentioned them." Charlie's hand froze on the spine of a book. "Not much to tell," she said carefully. "My parents passed away years ago. I was never close with extended family." "No siblings?" His voice was casual, but there was something probing beneath the question. Charlie hesitated. This was her moment, her opportunity to tell the truth. But fear, cold and paralyzing, gripped her. "No," she lied. "No siblings." Nathan nodded slowly, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. It must have been lonely growing up. It was, Charlie admitted, relief and shame washing over her in equal measure. But you find ways to cope with loneliness. You build your own family in a way. Like you're doing with us. There was a vulnerability in his question that made Charlie's heart ache. "Yes," she whispered. "Like that." Nathan smiled, a genuine smile that transformed his face. "Lara adores you, you know. She talks about you constantly. Charlie said this. Charlie showed me that. It's good to hear her so animated again." "She's an extraordinary child," Charlie said, meaning it. "So perceptive, so resilient. Too perceptive sometimes," Nathan agreed with a chuckle. "Yesterday she asked me why my heart beats faster when you're in the room." Charlie nearly dropped the book she was holding. "What did you tell her?" Nathan's unseeing eyes seemed to find hers across the room. "I told her I didn't know what she was talking about." "But it does." Charlie couldn't stop herself from asking. "Beat faster?" Nathan was quiet for a long moment. "Yes," he finally admitted. "And that terrifies me, Charlie, because I still love my wife. I still wake up reaching for her. I still talk to her when I'm alone. And yet," he shook his head, "I'm sorry. That was inappropriate." "No," Charlie said quickly, crossing the room to sit opposite him. "No, it wasn't." They sat in silence, the admission hanging in the air between them. Charlie's own heart was racing, torn between elation and crushing guilt. She knew she should tell him the truth now, before things went any further. But the words stuck in her throat. "There's something I need to," she began, but was interrupted by the sound of small footsteps in the hallway. "Daddy? Charlie?" Lara appeared in the doorway, her stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest. "I had a bad dream." Nathan immediately set down his glass and opened his arms. "Come here, princess." Lara ran to her father, burrowing into his embrace. "It was about Mommy again," she said, her voice muffled against his chest. "She was trying to tell me something, but I couldn't hear her." Nathan stroked his daughter's hair, his face a mask of helpless concern. "It was just a dream, sweetheart." No, it wasn't, Lara insisted, pulling back to look at her father's face. It was real. Mommy's trying to tell us something important. Charlie felt a chill run down her spine. What do you think she's trying to tell us, Lara? She asked, unable to help herself. Lara turned to look at her, those eyes, so like Emily's, so like her own, filled with a wisdom beyond her years. She says there are secrets in our house, big secrets that need to come out. Nathan tensed. Lara, honey, these dreams aren't real. Your mommy, she's not here anymore, she can't talk to us. But she does talk to me, Lara insisted. And she knows things. She knows about the locket in your drawer, Daddy. The one with the picture of her and the lady who looks just like her. The blood drained from Charlie's face. The locket, Emily's locket with their childhood photo, was something only she, Emily, and apparently Nathan knew about. How could Lara possibly know? What lady, Lara? Nathan asked, his voice strained. Mommy's twin. The one she doesn't talk to anymore, Lara explained, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Mommy said she misses her, even though they fought. Nathan's face went completely still. Charlie, he said quietly, would you mind taking Lara back to bed? I think I need a moment. Charlie nodded, unable to speak. She gently took Lara's hand and led her back to her bedroom, her mind racing. Once the little girl was tucked in again, Charlie sat on the edge of the bed, trying to compose herself. Are you sad? Lara asked, reaching out to touch Charlie's cheek. You look sad. No, sweetheart, Charlie lied. Just tired. Lara studied her face. You look like the lady in the locket, she said suddenly. Are you Mommy's twin? The question, so direct and so unexpected, left Charlie speechless. She opened her mouth, then closed it again, tears welling in her eyes. It's okay, Lara said, patting Charlie's hand. I won't tell Daddy if you don't want me to. How? Charlie swallowed hard. How did you know? Lara shrugged. I told you, Mommy tells me things in my dreams. She yawned, her eyelids growing heavy. She's not angry at you anymore. She wants you to help Daddy not be sad. Charlie sat with Lara until the child fell asleep, her innocent face peaceful in slumber. Then, gathering what little courage she had left, she returned to the library. Nathan was still there, the locket now open in his hands. I found this after Emily's passing, he said without preamble. I never saw it while she was alive. She kept it hidden. He held it out, his unseeing eyes fixed on a point beyond Charlie's shoulder. Two identical girls, about 10 years old, Emily and her twin sister, Charlotte. Charlie's heart hammered in her chest. Nathan. What I can't figure out, he continued, his voice eerily calm, is why her sister would come to work in my home under a false name. Why she would lie to me, to my daughter, day after day. I can explain, Charlie whispered, tears streaming down her face. Can you? Nathan's voice was tight with controlled emotion. Can you explain why you let my 6-year-old daughter form an attachment to you without knowing who you really are? Can you explain why you've been living in my home under false pretenses? Was it money? Curiosity? Some twisted form of grief? It wasn't like that, Charlie insisted, moving closer to him. I wanted to help. After everything that happened, after Emily, I just wanted to make amends somehow. Amends, Nathan echoed, confusion evident on his face. What do you mean after everything that happened? What could you possibly need to make amends for? Charlie froze, realizing she had said too much. I just meant after the accident. No, Nathan shook his head. No, there's more to it than that. Tell me the truth, Charlotte, all of it. She sank into the chair opposite him, her legs no longer able to support her. Emily and we hadn't spoken in years. We had a falling out. Over what? Nathan pressed. Charlie closed her eyes, knowing the next words would change everything. Over you. The silence that followed was deafening. Nathan's face went through a series of emotions: confusion, disbelief, realization, and finally, a terrible understanding. The charity gala, he said slowly. In New York, 3 years ago. Charlie nodded, then remembered he couldn't see the gesture. Yes. You were the server I talked to all night, the one I met for coffee a few times after that. His voice was hollow. You never told me you were Emily's sister. No, Charlie admitted, I didn't, and when Emily found out we'd been meeting, she was upset, Nathan finished. But she never told me why. She just said she needed space, that she was going to stay with a friend for a few days. His hands clenched around the locket. That was the night of the accident. She was leaving. Because of you, because of us. Yes, Charlie whispered, the admission tearing from her throat. She confronted me first. We argued. She was so angry, Nathan. She said I'd always been jealous of her, that I was trying to steal her life. Were you? The question was like a knife. No. Maybe. I don't know. Charlie buried her face in her hands. I loved you. Even then, after just those few conversations. It was wrong and I knew it, but I couldn't help it. So you came here, why? To pick up where we left off, to replace her? Nathan's voice was ice. No, Charlie looked up, horrified. I came because I saw the job listing and I thought I could help take care of Lara. I thought maybe I could make up for what happened in some small way. By lying? By deceiving us? I was going to tell you, Charlie insisted. I couldn't find the right moment. Nathan laughed bitterly. The right moment, of course. He stood up abruptly. I want you to leave, Charlotte. Tomorrow morning I'll pay you whatever is owed, but I want you out of this house. Please, Nathan, Charlie begged, rising to her feet. Please don't do this. Think of Lara. Don't you dare use my daughter as leverage, he growled. Lara deserves better than to be lied to, better than to form attachments based on deception. Charlie reached for him, her hand grasping his arm. I'm not lying about my feelings, Nathan. Not now. I care about you. I care about Lara. These past weeks have been real. For a moment, Nathan's expression softened, and Charlie dared to hope. But then he pulled away, his face hardening again. How can I trust anything you say? How can I believe a word that comes out of your mouth? Before Charlie could respond, a small voice came from the doorway. Don't make Charlie leave, Daddy. They both turned to find Lara standing there, her stuffed rabbit dangling from one hand. Please don't make her go away. Nathan knelt down, reaching out for his daughter. Lara, sweetheart, you should be in bed. I know Charlie is Mommy's. Sister, Lara said, ignoring her father's words. I know they're twins. Mommy told me. In your dreams? Nathan asked gently. Yes, and she told me not to be mad at Charlie. Lara approached them both, her small face serious. She said it wasn't Charlie's fault what happened. She said she was driving too fast because she was angry. Charlie gasped softly. That detail, the speeding, was something that had been in the police report but never made public. How could Lara possibly know? Nathan seemed equally shaken. Lara, honey, how do you know that? I told you, Mommy tells me things. Lara turned to Charlie. She says she forgives you. She wants you to stay and help Daddy. She says you're family. The innocence with which Lara delivered this message, the absolute certainty in her voice, left both adults speechless. Nathan's face was a study in conflict. Anger, confusion, disbelief, and something else, something like hope. Lara, he finally said, his voice rough with emotion, go back to bed, please. Charlie and I need to talk alone. Are you going to let her stay? Lara persisted. Nathan hesitated. I don't know yet, but I promise to think about what you said. Satisfied, Lara hugged them both before returning to her room. In her wake, she left a silence charged with unspoken words and emotions too complex to name. Nathan, Charlie finally said, I know I have no right to ask for your forgiveness or your trust, but what Lara said, there are things she couldn't possibly know. Unless what? Nathan challenged. Unless she's really communicating with Emily from beyond the grave. Is that what you expect me to believe? I don't know what to believe anymore, Charlie admitted. All I know is that I came here seeking redemption, and I found something I never expected. And what's that? Nathan's voice was weary now, the anger giving way to exhaustion. A family, Charlie whispered. A chance to be part of something again, a chance to help, to heal, a chance to love. She took a deep breath. I know I don't deserve any of it. I know I should leave. But Lara... Don't use my daughter, Nathan warned again, but his tone had softened slightly. I'm not using her, Charlie insisted. I'm concerned for her. She's attached to me, Nathan. And there's something extraordinary happening with her. Something neither of us fully understands. Nathan ran a hand through his hair, his face a battleground of conflicting emotions. I need time to think, to process all of this. I understand, Charlie said, relief washing over her. At least he wasn't ordering her to leave immediately. Take all the time you need. In the meantime, Nathan added, his voice firmer now, no more lies, no more secrets. If you're staying under my roof, even temporarily, I want complete honesty. Yes, Charlie agreed quickly. Absolutely, ask me anything. Nathan was quiet for a moment, considering. Did you and I... Was there ever anything physical between us, back then? No, Charlie said truthfully. Never. It was just conversations, feelings, that neither of us acted on. He nodded slowly. And Emily? What exactly happened between you two that night? Charlie closed her eyes, the memory painful, but crystal clear. She came to my apartment. She had found texts on your phone. Nothing inappropriate. Just plans. To meet for coffee. But she knew. Somehow she knew there was more to it. She took a shaky breath. She accused me of trying to steal her husband, her life. I denied it, but she wasn't wrong, was she? I was jealous. I had always been jealous of everything she had. So you argued, Nathan prompted. Yes, it got ugly. I said things I didn't. Mean things I can never take back. She stormed out and I... Charlie's voice broke. I let her go. I was too proud, too angry to stop her. If I had just stopped her... Nathan's face was a mask of pain. She called me on her way home. She was crying, distracted. That's when... He couldn't finish the sentence. The accident, Charlie whispered. It was my fault. If we hadn't argued, if she hadn't been upset... It was no one's fault, Nathan said suddenly, surprising Charlie. It was an accident. A terrible, life-destroying accident, but still just an accident. Emily made the choice to drive while upset. I made the choice not to ask her what was wrong. You made the choice not to tell me you were her sister. We all made choices that led to that night. He sighed heavily. And now we all have to live with the consequences. Charlie reached across the space between them, tentatively touching his hand. I'm so sorry, Nathan. For everything. He didn't pull away. I know, he said quietly. So am I. They sat in silence, the rain still pattering against the windows, the weight of their shared grief and guilt hanging in the air. But something had shifted between them. A truth had been exposed, painful as it was, and with it came the possibility of healing. Upstairs, Lara Rosen lay in her bed, her stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest. She told them part of it, Bunny, she whispered to the toy, but not all of it. Not yet. She closed her eyes, a small smile on her face. Mummy says there's more they need to know, and I'm going to help them find it. The morning after Charlie's confession, an uneasy truce settled over the Rosen mansion. Nathan had not asked her to leave, but the easy camaraderie they had developed over the past weeks had been replaced by a cautious distance. They moved around each other like wary dancers, careful not to step too close, too far, or too hard. Only Lara seemed unfazed by the revelation, treating Charlie with the same affectionate enthusiasm as before. If anything, the child appeared, more attached to Charlie now that she knew the truth of their connection. She would slip her small hand into Charlie's as they walked through the garden, asking questions about her mother that Charlie found increasingly difficult to answer. Did Mommy like butterflies when she was little? Like me? Lara asked one afternoon, as they watched a monarch flutter among the roses. Yes, Charlie smiled at the memory. She used to collect butterfly wings she found on the ground. She kept them in a special box under her bed. Lara nodded, satisfied. I know, I have the box now. Charlie froze. You do? Mm-hmm. Daddy gave it to me after Mummy went away. It has all her special things in it. Lara looked up at Charlie with those disconcertingly knowing eyes. "There's her diary too, with a lock. But I don't have the key." Charlie's heart skipped a beat. Emily had always kept a diary, even as a child. It was one of the many things that had differentiated the twins. Emily documented everything, while Charlie preferred to leave the past in the past. "Have you told your dad about the diary?" Charlie asked carefully. Lara shook her head. "It's a secret, just for girls." That evening, after Lara had gone to bed, Charlie found Nathan in the library, his fingers running over a book in Braille. He looked up as she entered, his unseeing eyes somehow finding her with unerring accuracy. "She's asleep," Charlie said softly, hovering by the doorway. Nathan nodded. "Thank you for telling me. I was thinking—" He hesitated. "Would you mind joining me for a moment? There's something I'd like to discuss." Charlie stepped into the room, settling into the chair opposite him. "Of course. I've been thinking about what Lara said last night," Nathan began, closing his book. "About Emily speaking to her in dreams, about her knowing things she couldn't possibly know." "I've been thinking about that too," Charlie admitted. "It's unsettling." "It's more than unsettling. It's impossible," Nathan said firmly. "And yet—" He trailed off, his brow furrowed. "She knew about the speeding. She knew about the locket. Things we never told her, things she couldn't have overheard." Charlie leaned forward. "What are you saying, Nathan?" "I'm not sure," he said, his voice low. "Maybe she's somehow accessing memories from before the accident that we don't realize she has. Maybe Mrs. Simmons told her more than we thought. Or maybe—" He shook his head. "I don't know what to think anymore." "Lara mentioned something today," Charlie said carefully. "She said Emily kept a diary, that it's in a box of keepsakes you gave her." Nathan's face showed surprise. "The butterfly box? Yes, I gave it to her afterward, but I never looked inside. It was Emily's private collection. I thought it would be a comfort to Lara, having something of her mother's. She says there's a diary in there locked." Nathan was quiet for a moment. "Emily did keep journals. She was always writing ever since I knew her." He paused. "You think there might be something in them? Something that could explain what's happening with Lara?" "I don't know," Charlie admitted, "but it might be worth looking for the key." The next morning, while Lara was at school, Nathan and Charlie searched the master bedroom, a space Charlie had carefully avoided until now. It was grand and elegant, decorated in soft blues and greys, with large windows overlooking the garden. Emily's presence was everywhere, in the delicate perfume bottles on the vanity, in the books stacked by the window seat, in the photographs arranged on the walls. "It feels strange being in here," Charlie said softly, taking in the room that had been her sister's. "Like I'm intruding." Nathan, who had been running his fingers along the edge of the dresser, paused. "I know what you mean. I haven't slept in here since the accident. I've been using one of the guest rooms." He resumed his methodical search. "If there's a key, it would be somewhere meaningful to her, somewhere she'd remember, but not obvious to others." Charlie thought back to their childhood, to the hiding places they had shared and the secrets they had kept. "Her jewelry box," she suggested. "The false bottom. We had one as children. Our grandmother gave us identical ones." Nathan pointed toward the vanity. "Second drawer on the left." Charlie found it easily, an ornate wooden box with mother-of-pearl inlay. Inside were Emily's treasures. A strand of pearls Nathan had given her on their anniversary, diamond earrings that had been their mother's, a delicate gold bracelet with Lara's name engraved on it. Charlie's fingers traced the familiar patterns on the box, finding the hidden catch that released the false bottom. "There's something here," she said, carefully lifting a small velvet pouch. Inside was a tiny silver key, no bigger than her pinky fingernail. "I think this might be it." That afternoon, when Lara returned from school, they asked her about the butterfly box. She retrieved it from under her bed, a battered wooden chest, decorated with faded decoupage butterflies. Inside were the treasures of Emily's childhood: pressed flowers, sea glass, a collection of foreign coins, and beneath them all, a small leather-bound diary with a silver lock. "May we?" Nathan asked gently, holding out his hand for the diary. Lara looked between her father and Charlie, her expression solemn. "Mommy wants you to read it," she said. "She says it's time." Charlie's hand trembled as she fitted the key into the lock. It turned smoothly, as if recently oiled. The diary fell open to a page marked with a pressed violet, Emily's favorite flower. The date at the top was from 3 years ago, around the time Charlie and Nathan had first met. Charlie began to read. Aloud, "I saw Charlie today. She didn't see me. She was serving drinks at the Hartfield Foundation Gala, and Nathan was talking to her like they were old friends. I watched them for nearly an hour before I approached. There was something in the way they looked at each other that made my stomach twist. I know that look. I've seen it before." She paused, glancing at Nathan. His face was tense, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. "Go on," he said quietly. I didn't say anything to Nathan about it. What could I say? "I saw you talking to my estranged twin sister, the one I never told you about, and I didn't like the way you looked at her. It sounds insane, even to me, but I know what I saw, and it terrifies me." Charlie's voice faltered, but she continued, flipping through the pages to entries dated after that first meeting. "Nathan's been distant lately. He says it's work, but I know better. He's been meeting her. I found texts on his phone, innocent enough on the surface, just coffee meetings, conversations about books and music. But I know my sister. I know when she wants something, and I know my husband. I know when he's pulling away." Nathan made a small sound of protest. "I never—" "I know," Charlie said softly. "Keep listening." She turned to the final entries, dated just days before the accident. "I confronted Charlie today. It went about as well as expected. She denied everything, of course. Said I was being paranoid, that they were just friends. But I saw it in her eyes. She loves him. My sister loves my husband. And the worst part, I think he might love her too." Charlie's voice broke on the last words. "Nathan, I—" "Keep reading," he insisted, his voice tight. The final entry was dated the night of the accident. Charlie's hands shook as she read the words. "I'm leaving tonight. Not forever, just for a few days. I need space to think, to decide what to do about Nathan and Charlie. Part of me wants to confront Nathan, to demand the truth. But another part doesn't want to know. What if he confirms my fears? What if he tells me he has feelings for her? I don't think I could bear it. The truth is, I'm not entirely innocent in all this. There are things I've never told Nathan, secrets I've kept that would change everything if he knew. Maybe that's why this feels like karma. My own deceptions, coming back to haunt me. I haven't been entirely honest about the accident 6 months ago, the one that left me in the hospital for weeks. The doctors warned about the memory loss, about the possibility of personality changes, but they didn't know the whole story. No one does except me and Dr. Winters. And Charlie, of course, Charlie always knew me better than anyone, even when we were apart. Maybe that's why she came back into our lives now. Maybe on some level she senses what's happening to me. I need to speak with Dr. Winters again tomorrow. The headaches are getting worse, and the episodes of lost time more frequent. Something is wrong with me, something beyond what the initial diagnosis suggested. I'm scared, more scared than I've ever been. Not of dying, but of what might happen before death comes. Of what I might do or say, of who I might become. If anything happens to me, I hope Charlie will find her way back to Nathan and Lara. Despite everything, despite my jealousy and fear, I know she loves them. And they might need her more than they know. The diary ended there, the rest of the pages blank. Charlie closed it gently, her mind reeling from the revelations. "What accident?" Nathan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. What was she talking about? Emily was never in an accident 6 months before. He trailed off, his face suddenly draining of color. "The migraines," he said. "She started having terrible migraines. About 8 months before the accident, she said they were stress-related, that her doctor had prescribed medication." He turned toward Charlie, his unseeing eyes wide with shock. Was she sick? Was that what she was hiding? Before Charlie could respond, Lara, who had been sitting silently beside them, spoke up. "Mummy's brain was sick," she said matter-of-factly. That's why she got so angry sometimes, why she couldn't remember things, why she was scared. Both? Adults turned to the child in astonishment. Lara, Nathan said carefully, how do you know that? She told me, Lara said simply. In my dreams. She says she's sorry she didn't tell you. She was scared you wouldn't love her anymore if you knew she was broken. Nathan reached for his daughter, pulling her into a fierce embrace. I would have loved her no matter what, he said, his voice thick with emotion. No matter what. Charlie watched them, her own heart breaking anew. Emily had been sick, seriously ill, and had hidden it from everyone, even Nathan. The personality changes, the mood swings, the increasing paranoia about Charlie and Nathan's innocent meetings, all symptoms of something more sinister than simple jealousy. Nathan, she said softly, I need to tell you something else, something about the night of the accident. He lifted his head, still holding Lara close. What is it? Emily didn't just storm out after our argument. She was disoriented, confused. She kept repeating herself, losing her train of thought. I tried to stop her from driving, but she wouldn't listen. She was so angry, so determined to get home to you. Charlie swallowed hard. I should have tried harder to stop her. I should have called you or called a cab, but I was angry too and hurt by the things she'd said, so I let her go. It wasn't your fault, Nathan said quietly. Neither of us. I knew what she was going through. She didn't let us know. But that's just it, Charlie insisted. I should have known. We were twins. We shared everything growing up. If anyone should have recognized that something was wrong, it was me. Lara wiggled out of her father's embrace and came to stand before Charlie. Mommy says you couldn't have known. The sick was hiding deep inside where no one could see. Charlie looked into the child's eyes, Emily's eyes, her own eyes, and felt a strange sense of peace wash over her. Whether Lara was truly communicating with Emily's spirit or simply processing her grief in her own unique way, the effect was the same. A bridge between past and present, between what was lost and what remained. There's one more thing, Lara continued, her small face serious. Mommy says there's something in her special hiding place. Something important. Nathan frowned. What hiding place, sweetheart? The one behind the bookshelf in her studio, where she kept her treasures. Nathan and Charlie exchanged glances. Emily had an art studio in the East Wing, Nathan explained. It was her private space. I haven't been in there since... I know, Lara nodded, but we need to go there now. Mommy says it's time. The studio was dusty from months of disuse, but otherwise untouched. Easels stood draped in cloths, half-finished canvases lined the walls, and the scent of oil paint and turpentine still lingered in the air. Lara moved with confidence through the space, heading directly to a bookshelf in the far corner. There, she pointed to a row of art books. Behind the big blue one, Charlie carefully removed the book, a volume on Renaissance masters, revealing a small compartment cut into the wall behind. Inside was a sealed envelope, Nathan's name written on the front in Emily's elegant script. What is it? Nathan asked, sensing their discovery. A letter, Charlie answered, placing it in his hands. For you. Will you read it to... Me, he asked, his fingers trembling slightly. Charlie carefully opened the envelope and unfolded the letter inside. Taking a deep breath, she began to read. My dearest Nathan, if you're reading this, then I'm probably gone, and you've discovered the truth, or at least part of it. I'm so sorry for the secrets I've kept, for the pain I know you must be feeling. Please believe that everything I did out of love for you and Lara. By now you probably know about my condition. The doctors called it a rare form of rapid onset, neurological degeneration triggered by the head injury I sustained in the car accident last year, the one I told you was just a fender bender. They gave me 6 months, maybe a year, the headaches, the mood swings, the memory lapses, all symptoms of what was happening inside my brain. I couldn't bear to tell you, couldn't bear to see the pity in your eyes, to watch you prepare for my departure. So I decided to keep it to myself, to cherish every good day we had left without the shadow of what was coming. But as my symptoms worsened, I began to fear what I might become before the end. The personality changes were the hardest. The paranoia, the irrational anger, the confusion. I wasn't myself, Nathan, and I was terrified of hurting you or Lara in my altered state. Which brings me to Charlie. My twin, my other half, my greatest rival and my most steadfast defender. Despite our estrangement, there was no one else I trusted to look after you and Lara when I was gone. So I arranged to bring her back into our lives in the only way I could think of, through you. The charity gala wasn't a coincidence. I made sure Charlie was working there that night. I made sure you would meet her, talk to her. And when you continued to see her afterward, it wasn't betrayal I felt, but relief. Relief that my plan was working, that you were forming a connection. That might sustain you after I was gone. The jealousy, the confrontation, that was the disease talking, not me. In my clearer moments, I knew what I was doing. I was building a bridge between the people I loved most in the world, a bridge that might carry you both forward when I no longer could. So if Charlie is with you now, reading this letter, know that it's with my blessing. Know that I wanted this for you both, a second chance, a new beginning. Love her as you loved me, Nathan. Let her love Lara as I would have. And Charlie, my sister, my mirror image, take care of them. Be the mother Lara needs, the partner Nathan deserves. Don't let guilt or the past stand in the way of the future I've tried to create for you all. I love you, all of you, more than words can express. Remember me, but don't cling to grief. Live, love, laugh. That's all I ever wanted for us. Forever yours, Emily. As Charlie's voice faded on the final words, a profound silence filled the studio. The late afternoon sun streamed through the windows, illuminating dust motes that danced in the air like golden spirits. Nathan sat motionless, tears streaming down his face, while Lara leaned against him, her small hand patting his arm in comfort. She planned it all, Nathan finally whispered. From the very beginning, she brought us together. No, Charlie shook her head, her own cheeks wet with tears. She built a bridge, but we're the ones who chose to cross it. Lara looked up at them both, her expression serene. Mommy says now you understand. Now you can stop being sad and start being happy again, all of us together. Nathan reached out, his hand finding Charlie's. Is that possible? He asked softly. After everything? Charlie laced her fingers through his, feeling a flutter of hope in her chest. I think it's not only possible, she said softly, but exactly what Emily wanted, what she planned for. A new family, Nathan murmured, his face softening. Built from the ruins of what was lost. Not ruins, Charlie corrected gently. Foundations. Emily didn't leave ruins behind, Nathan. She left love and memories and a daughter who carries her spirit. Those aren't ruins. They're the strongest foundation imaginable. Lara, who had been watching them with those wise eyes, suddenly smiled, a brilliant, joyful smile that transformed her small face. Mommy's happy now, she declared. She says her work is done. As if on cue, a warm breeze swept through the studio, ruffling the pages of sketchbooks and lifting the dust covers on Emily's canvases. One cloth slipped away completely, revealing a painting none of them had seen before. A portrait of the three of them, Nathan, Charlie, and Lara, standing together in the garden, their faces lifted toward the sun. When did she paint this? Charlie whispered, moving closer to examine the canvas. The painting was unmistakably Emily's work, with her distinctive brushstrokes and use of light, but it depicted a scene that had never happened, at least not until now. It's her last gift, Nathan said softly, as if sensing what Charlie was seeing. Her blessing. Lara slipped between them, taking both their hands in hers. Can we be a family now? She asked simply. Nathan turned toward Charlie, his unseeing eyes somehow finding hers unerringly. Can we? He echoed, vulnerability and hope mingling in his voice. Charlie looked at the man she had loved from afar, at the child who carried her sister's spirit, at the painting that seemed to bridge past and future. In that moment, she knew that the path forward, though complicated and perhaps even painful at times, was clear. Yes, she said, her voice steady and sure. Yes, we can be a family. For Emily, for Lara, for all of us. As the sun began to set outside the studio windows, the three of them stood together before Emily's final painting, their shadows merging into one on the dusty floor. None of them noticed the butterfly that had somehow found its way into the room, its delicate wings the exact shade of violet that Emily had always loved. It circled them once, twice, before slipping out through the open window and into the golden evening sky, a small spirit taking flight, released at last from earthly concerns. 1 year later, the Rosen mansion was transformed. Gone were the drawn curtains and hushed hallways, replaced by sunlight and the sound of laughter. The garden, once Emily's pride and joy, bloomed again under Charlie's careful attention, with Lara as her enthusiastic assistant. The studio in the East Wing had been reopened, the dust covers removed, and new canvases added alongside Emily's work. Some Charlie's attempts at painting, others Lara's exuberant, childish creations. Life had moved forward, not in a straight line but in a spiral, circling back to touch the past even as it reached toward the future. Charlie had officially adopted Lara 6 months ago, though the little girl had been calling her Mom long before the paperwork was finalized. Nathan and Charlie had married in a small, intimate ceremony in the garden, with only their closest friends in attendance, and a portrait of Emily placed carefully on an easel beside them, not as a ghost of the past, but as an honored guest, a blessed presence. Today was Emily's birthday, and as had become their tradition, the three of them were preparing a celebration. Not a mournful remembrance, but a joyful honoring of the woman who had, in her own mysterious way, orchestrated their happiness. "Do you think Mommy Emily would like these streamers?" Lara asked, holding up lengths of violet and silver ribbon. At 7, she was tall for her age, with Emily's golden hair and Charlie's determined chin. "I think she'd love them," Charlie answered, helping Lara hang the decorations across the dining room. Purple was always her favorite color. "I know," Lara nodded. "She used to say it was the color of magic." From the doorway came the sound of Nathan clearing his throat. "Am I interrupting the decorating committee?" Charlie smiled at the sight of him. The past year had been good to Nathan Rosen. The hard lines of grief had softened from his face, replaced by new laugh lines around his eyes. He still carried his cane, but moved with a confidence that came from acceptance rather than resistance. The breakthrough treatment he had undergone 6 months ago hadn't restored his sight, but it had given him patches of light and shadow, hints of the visual world that he navigated now with both his enhanced senses and Charlie's gentle guidance. "Just in time to help," Charlie said, crossing the room to kiss him. "We need someone tall to hang the banner." "Ah, so I'm just the hired help now," Nathan teased, accepting the banner Lara thrust into his hands. "Where do you want it, Princess?" "Above the fireplace," Lara directed, "where Mommy Emily can see it best." Nathan's face softened at this. Lara's conviction that Emily's spirit remained with them had never wavered, though her dream conversations had gradually become less frequent. Whether one believed in such things or not, there was no denying the comfort it brought the child, and by extension, all of them. As Nathan carefully positioned the banner, his fingers feeling for the hooks they had installed for this purpose, Charlie watched him with a heart full of complicated emotions. Love, certainly, a deep and abiding love that had grown steadily over the past year, but also gratitude, tinged with a lingering sense of unworthiness. Did she deserve this happiness, this family, this second chance? Some days she still wasn't sure. "You're thinking too loudly," Nathan said suddenly, turning in her direction with uncanny accuracy. "I can practically hear the gears grinding." Charlie laughed. "It's scary how you do that." "Do what?" "Read your mind?" He stepped down from the chair he had been standing on, reaching for her with unerring precision. "Not mind reading, just Charlie reading. You get quiet when you're overthinking." Lara, who had been arranging violet roses in a vase, looked up. "Mommy Charlie is wondering if she deserves to be happy," she announced matter-of-factly. "She still does that sometimes, especially on Mommy." "Emily days." Charlie stared at her daughter, momentarily speechless. "How did you—" "Mommy Emily told me," Lara said with a shrug, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. She says to tell you that happiness isn't something you earn, it's something you accept. She frowned slightly, her small face scrunched in concentration. And she says the butterfly effect isn't just about chaos, it's about transformation too. Nathan's hand tightened around Charlie's. The butterfly effect had been an inside joke between the twins in childhood. Their secret term for the strange synchronicity that often existed between them, how a small action by one would create ripples that affected the other. Your mum is very wise, Charlie finally said, her voice slightly unsteady. Both your mums. Lara beamed. I know, that's why I'm so smart. The moment was interrupted by the doorbell, signaling the arrival of their first guests. The small birthday celebration would include Mrs. Simmons, now happily retired, but still a frequent visitor. Dr. Winters, who had been Emily's neurologist and had become a friend to the family, and several other people who had been important in Emily's life. As the house filled with visitors, Charlie found herself momentarily overwhelmed. She slipped away to the kitchen, ostensibly to check on the cake, but really to catch her breath. It was still strange sometimes, occupying the space that had been her sister's, being Mrs. Rosen when that title had once belonged to Emily. The letter had granted permission, even encouraged this new reality, but guilt had a way of lingering, of whispering doubts in quiet moments. There you are, came a familiar voice. Dr. Sarah Winters stood in the doorway, elegant as always in a simple blue dress. I was hoping to catch you alone for a moment. Charlie smiled warmly. Sarah, it's good to see you. The neurologist had become a confidant. Over the past year, one of the few people who knew the full complex story of how this family had come to be. As Emily's doctor, she had been bound by confidentiality in life, but with Nathan's permission, she had shared what she could after death. I brought something for you, Sarah said, retrieving a small package from her purse. I found it while cleaning out some old files. It belongs with you now. Charlie unwrapped the package to find a small leather-bound notebook. Emily's patient journal, Sarah explained. I had my patients keep track of their symptoms, their thoughts. Most of it is medical, but there are some personal reflections as well, things she might want you and Nathan to know now. Charlie held the journal carefully, as if it might dissolve in her hands. Thank you, she whispered. This means everything. Sarah smiled gently. She was an extraordinary woman. What she did, orchestrating a future for her family even as she faced her own mortality, it was an act of incredible courage and love. Sometimes I still can't believe it, Charlie admitted, that she forgave me, that she wanted this for us. Emily understood something that many never grasp, Sarah said thoughtfully. That love isn't a finite resource. It doesn't diminish when it's shared. It multiplies. She glanced toward the living room, where the sounds of conversation and laughter drifted in. You've created something beautiful here, Charlie, something worthy of her legacy. Before Charlie could respond, Lara appeared in the doorway. Mommy, Daddy's looking for you. It's almost time for the cake. She noticed the journal in Charlie's hands. What's that? A special book that belonged to your mommy Emily, Charlie explained. Dr. Sarah found it for us. Lara nodded sagely. For the memory box. I'll make room next to the butterfly wings. As the little girl skipped away, Sarah raised an eyebrow. The butterfly wings? Charlie smiled. Emily collected them as a child. Lara does the same now. She keeps them in a special box, along with Emily's diary and other mementos. The continuity of life, Sarah mused. Out of every ending, a new beginning grows. Together they rejoined the gathering. Nathan stood near the fireplace, engaged, in animated conversation with Mrs. Simmons. He turned as Charlie approached, his face lighting up with that special smile that was reserved for her alone. There you are, he said, reaching for her hand. I was beginning to think you'd run away from your own party. Never, Charlie promised, lacing her fingers through his. Just taking a moment to appreciate it all. Nathan's expression softened with understanding. It's a lot sometimes, isn't it? The joy, the grief, all mixed together. Yes, Charlie agreed, but I wouldn't change a thing. This beautiful, complicated life we've built, it's exactly what I want." "What we all want," Nathan corrected gently. "Emily included." As if to confirm his words, Lara appeared with the birthday cake, vanilla with buttercream frosting, Emily's favorite, adorned with 7 purple candles. 7 candles for 7 years since Mommy Emily became an angel, she explained to the gathered guests. The tradition had been Lara's idea, to mark not the years of Emily's absence, but the years of her spiritual presence in their lives. It was these moments, these small reinventions of grief into celebration, that had helped heal them all. "Everyone gather round," Nathan called, his arm around Charlie's waist. "Hey, it's time to sing." As their friends joined in the familiar birthday song, Charlie watched Lara's face glowing in the candlelight. The child was the perfect blend of her parents, Emily's golden beauty and Nathan's quiet strength, with an otherworldly wisdom that was entirely her own. Sometimes Charlie wondered if that wisdom truly came from Emily's spirit or simply from Lara's natural intuition, sharpened by loss and love. In the end, she had decided it didn't matter. The connection was real, whether supernatural or psychological, and it had guided them all to this moment of peace. "Make a wish for Mommy Emily," Lara instructed when the song ended. Charlie closed, her eyes feeling Nathan's steady presence beside her, Lara's small hand in hers. What would she wish for Emily? Peace, certainly. Joy, love. But those things seemed already granted if Lara's communications were to be believed. So instead, Charlie wished for something else. "I wish you could see us now, Em. I wish you could know how much we love you, how grateful we are for your gift to us. I wish you could feel the joy in this house that was once so full of sorrow. And most of all, I wish you could know that you're still here, in Lara's smile, in Nathan's laugh, in every violet sunset and butterfly wing. You're everywhere." Adadi. They all blew out the candles together. Charlie felt a familiar prickle at the back of her neck, a sensation she had experienced occasionally since moving into the mansion. It was almost like being watched, but not in an unsettling way, more like being embraced from a distance. "She's here," Lara whispered, as if reading Charlie's thoughts. "She's always here on special days." The party continued into the evening, with friends sharing favorite memories of Emily, laughter mixing with occasional tears. It was healing, this communal remembrance, this acknowledgement that grief and joy could coexist, that loss and new beginnings weren't mutually exclusive. As the last guests departed, Charlie found herself drawn to the garden. The spring evening was mild, the air scented with blooming roses and freshly cut grass. She sat on the stone bench where she and Nathan had shared their first kiss as a couple, where Emily had once sat to paint the landscape beyond. "Room for one more?" Nathan's voice came from behind her. Though he couldn't see in the traditional sense, he had memorized every inch of the garden, could navigate it as easily as Charlie. "Always," she replied, moving to make space beside her. He sat, his shoulder touching hers, a warm point of connection. "Lara's finally asleep," he reported. She insisted on keeping Emily's journal under her pillow tonight, said she needed to absorb the words while she slept. Charlie chuckled. "That sounds like our girl." "She is that," Nathan agreed, his voice warm with pride. "Ours in every way. That matters." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, listening to the night sounds around them, the rustle of leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, the soft splash of the garden fountain. "I was thinking," Nathan said eventually, "about what Sarah said earlier, about love multiplying rather than dividing when it's shared." Charlie nodded, leaning her head against his shoulder. "It's true, I never imagined there could be this much love in my life. It's almost overwhelming sometimes." "It is," Nathan agreed, "and yet, somehow not enough." Charlie lifted her head, looking at him curiously. "What do you mean?" A smile played at the corners of his mouth. "I was thinking, maybe there's room for more." "More what?" "More love. More family." He turned toward her, his face serious now. "Lara's been asking for a sibling." Charlie's breath caught. "A baby? You want to have a baby?" Nathan reached for her hand, his fingers finding hers unerringly. "I want to build on what we have, to keep growing this beautiful thing Emily helped create." He hesitated. "But only if you want it too." Charlie's mind raced with possibilities. A baby, another child to love, to raise alongside Lara, an expansion of their family, a new thread in the tapestry they were weaving. Together. "Yes," she said, the word escaping on a breath. "Yes, I want that. More than I realized until this moment." Nathan's face broke into a radiant smile. He leaned forward, finding her lips with his in a kiss that spoke of promises and possibilities of futures yet to unfold. Above them, the first stars of evening appeared in the violet twilight sky. A gentle breeze stirred the garden, carrying the scent of Emily's beloved roses. And somewhere just beyond the veil of perception, a presence watched over them, loving, approving, at peace. Later that night, as Charlie lay beside Nathan in their bed, she found herself thinking about the journey that had brought them here, from strangers to secret friends to estranged, almost lovers, to grieving survivors to family. It hadn't been a straight path, more like a labyrinth, winding back, on itself, full of dead ends and unexpected openings. But somehow, guided by love and forgiveness, they had found their way to the center. "What are you thinking about?" Nathan murmured, sensing her wakefulness. "Butterflies," Charlie answered truthfully. "How they start as one thing and become something entirely different. How that transformation requires darkness and struggle. How what emerges is more beautiful for having endured." Nathan's arm tightened around her. Emily would like that metaphor. "She would," Charlie agreed. She always did understand transformation better than anyone. As sleep began to claim her, Charlie had a fleeting impression, not quite a dream, not quite a vision, of Emily standing at the foot of their bed, radiant in a dress the color of violets, her smile blessing them with peaceful rest. Whether real or imagined, the image brought a sense of completion, of circles closing and new ones beginning. The last thought Charlie had before drifting into dreams was of future butterflies, their wings not yet formed, their transformations not yet begun, but their beauty already assured by the love that awaited them. In her room down the hall, Lara Rosen slept with a smile on her face, Emily's journal under her pillow, and a small violet butterfly perched on her windowsill. As the night deepened, the butterfly took flight, circling the sleeping child once before slipping through the open window and into the star-strewn sky, a messenger between worlds, carrying love back and forth on delicate wings. And in the garden, below among Emily's beloved roses, new buds formed, ready to bloom, to transform, to begin again in the endless cycle of life and love and memory, just as Emily had planned, just as was meant to be. Dear listeners, we hope that Nathan, Charlie, and Lara's journey has touched your heart. Their story reminds us that even in our darkest moments, transformation and new beginnings await. For more emotionally captivating stories like this one, we've created a special playlist that you can find by clicking to your left. If you enjoyed this tale of love, loss, and renewal, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Every day we bring you unique stories that explore the complexity and beauty of life's journeys. We can't wait to read your thoughts and feelings in the comments section below. Join us tomorrow for another unforgettable story that will stay with you long after you've heard the final words.